And we're live. Welcome back to Real Actors. This is episode 3. This is the kind of series where we have been talking about kind of the offshoot of Director's Cut, if you all watch that show, where we spotlight not a filmmaker, so to speak, but we get to kind of broaden it out a little bit and talk about a single actor or actress and kind of go through their little filmography. And it's been quite a lot of fun. We got to talk about Jim Carrey, then we went to Ewan McGregor, and now this week we have Benicio Del Toro, the special sauce, or the sprinkling, I like to call him. And I'm not here alone, and I will introduce my special guests in a minute. There's a little teaser, but I do have some actual living, breathing special guests, and these are 2 returning guests, never on the channel at the same time, so this should be a fucking mess. But we have the Walking Deb. Thank you so much for coming back on. This is not a Walking Dead content or Walking Dead video. This is just Benicio Del Toro, but thanks for joining us, Deb.
I am versatile. I can do just about anything you want me to do, and I'm happy to be here. Thanks. And yeah, let's do this.
All right, Deb's trying to get a date as well as being a co-host. And we have the other sister, the younger sister, the middle sister, well, older than me, but the middle sister. We have Becki Morgan. Thank you so much for coming back.
Well, you're welcome. I also have the worst introduction. I'm the other the other sister.
I said older.
I'm the most damaged middle sister, and yes, I'm high.
No, I said the older, just not the oldest, because you're older than me.
I'm the other sister.
Well,
the other sister.
You're the oldest sister.
Yeah, I'm just the young buck here. Actually, not really. I think we're all kind of old as dirt at this point. But Eric Williamson's in the chat already. He says, "Hey, Johnny, thinking the gain might be cranked up a bit." Oh, you guys told me it sounded good. I'm gonna go. All right, I'm gonna go down on the gain. All right.
I can't tell when you're not yelling.
That's true. And he also said, "Good evening, ladies." So.
Good evening.
Yes. And who has special guests with them? I hope that's better.
I do. This is my special guest, the bottle of Seagram's Extra Smooth Vodka. And
Ooh.
That's my special guest for the evening.
That's very nice. Yeah. Becki?
I have water.
Ooh, you're like Zuby. You don't get the reference. All right. And I have a Silver City. This one was I asked. I put 2 different beers on the Twitters today, and I asked which one I should drink on the show, and this one was voted by one person. It's not like I'm super popular or anything. I have the Silver City, the Giant Made of Shadows. It's a limited edition Belgian-style strong ale. So I love Silver City so much. They're up here in Washington. I don't think I've had a bad Silver City beer, except the Magnificent Bastard is just way too Scotch ale for me, so I wasn't a huge fan, but yeah, I'm gonna be tasting this one. This one's a 9.8% or something, so at least Deb and I should be feeling fine. Becki, you're gonna be running the show in a couple minutes. But Benicio Del Toro, let's talk about him. Why did we pick him?
Because you told us to.
Oh.
It was your idea.
Oh. You said, let's do Benicio Del Toro, and we said, okay.
Oh, fair enough. I actually forgot that's how that went down, but okay. What is your guys' experience with Benicio Del Toro?
Becki, you want to go first?
My personal experience with Benicio Del Toro, unfortunately, I don't have a personal experience with Benicio Del Toro as much as I would have liked in my lifetime to have a personal experience with Benicio Del Toro. That didn't happen thus far. However, I enjoy his work. I think he's fun and attractive, and there's a lot of things. But
sure.
As an actor, I don't know. I guess we'll get into that. I've already messed this up. Somebody else take over quickly.
I think Benicio Del Toro is amazing. I think he is versatile and can pretty much humiliate himself into almost any role they put him into. And I personally have not had a personal experience with him yet, but I may have one in the future if I put my cards right. You never know. So, yeah, no, but he's an incredible actor. even though his roles may be kind of small sometimes, but they still make the whole movie. And yeah, I think he's amazing.
Absolutely, and I think at least my introduction to, and I won't take the smartass bait. I have never had a personal experience with Benicio Del Toro either, guys.
Oh, are you kidding me? I'm watching crap. I can't believe it.
But I think my introduction to watching him it had to have been Fear and Loathing, and we're gonna run through it. And just to name, I mean, this gentleman's in like a lot more than you think that he is, or you know, he's in a lot more movies that you're just like, oh, you think of Benicio Del Toro, and you're just like, oh, I don't know if I've seen a lot of his movies. It's like, well, have you seen movies? Because he is just in everything. I mean, we're going to run down a couple things like Swimming with Sharks, The Usual Suspects, Fear and Loathing, Traffic, Way of the Gun, Snatch, 21 Grams, Sin City, Wolfman, Thor, Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers, Inherent Vice, Sicario, Star Wars. I mean, he literally is in everything, and he's not really the main focus, and I think that's okay. Especially there's leading actors and actresses, and for whatever reason, and I'm not even a big fan, you think of a leading man actor and you think of like the Tom Cruise or the Bruce Willis back in the 90s or something like that. But then, you know, like a Meryl Streep or something like that. Benicio Del Toro is a fantastic ensemble actor. If you're going to have an ensemble cast, then he most likely is already in the film. But if he's not, you should consider him, because he just makes everything a little bit spicier. He is just like the secret sauce, where if you take him out, some of these films would just not be as fun or entertaining without him.
Absolutely. I mean, I was saying to you earlier that it's a shame he has, in some movies, he's in there for 20 minutes. But that 20 minutes ends up being what the whole movie is about, which is awesome. I mean, like in Snatch, he's in Snatch for all of 20 minutes. I mean, but then he does have his big roles, like in Traffic and other ones where he is the main guy. But he does very well as almost, I don't want to say a bit actor, but just the small roles that mean huge things.
Yeah, what are some of those kind of the smaller roles that stick out to you, Becki?
For me, definitely Snatch. Like what Debbie said, Snatch is definitely... It's funny because I know him to be in that movie, and I hadn't seen it in so long. But if you ask me who was in that movie, I always say Brad Pitt and Benicio Del Toro. And I went back and I watched it today, actually, after a long, long time of not seeing it. And I realized that how little his part was. I was kind of shocked. And I was like, wait a minute.
Right.
That's it? Like they'd already done away with him, and we're not even halfway through the movie yet, and I realized what a huge impact he made, because there are very few things in life better than Benicio Del Toro saying "Oy vey." I can't. I can't.
The best Jew in the world.
He's best. Benicio Del Toro playing a Jew is unbelievable. So that one sticks out in my head in particular. Now, the movies that I kind of went and reviewed, he had bigger parts, like The Way of the Gun. And although The Way of the Gun, when we get to that too, that's another, not a huge part. And I noticed that he doesn't have a lot of dialogue. There's not a lot of dialogue, but he makes such a huge impact, because I think he's a scene stealer. Even up against some big heavyweight actors, he's a scene stealer. For sure. That's very much like James. He has a James Dean element about him.
That's a huge point, where you said that even in his larger roles, because I guess you could say he's kind of a co-lead. Way of the Gun is a little bit of an ensemble cast too, but I guess your mains are Ryan Felipe, whatever, and Benicio Del Toro, and he just does so much and conveys so much with just being the cool, like, dark and brooding guy. And like Debbie said, where he's not so much a bit actor, but he could he's that special sprinkling, because he could do that kind of subtle, like in Way of the Gun, and like in more of the not Sicarios, but the Traffics and stuff like that, where he does more of a modest, kind of muted performance, and then you put him something in like The Usual Suspects or Sin City or something like that, and he's doing these crazy bits, and he's doing these like crazy voices. I like him because you could always plug him into just about anything you want to do, but he does kind of get typecasted, and I want to talk about that with you guys. I feel like going through and rewatching and watching some of these movies for the first time, I feel like he does kind of get pigeonholed into that gangster role.
I totally agree with you. I think the majority of his movies have to do with cartel takedowns and drug running, and yeah, I think he is typecast. He is as the Hispanic, either the bad guy or the good guy, but he ends up being very. I think he is very typecast. I'm not sure. Well, I guess because I'm not sure why they do that to him. I mean, there are other Hispanic actors, but he seems to get all those roles. Whether I don't know if he wants those roles or they just give them to him. But yeah, I think he is very typecast. There are a few ones where he has broken out of that, like in Snatch, where he's the Jew. We are all Jewish, so I can say he's the Jew. Snatch, where he's the Jew. And like Traffic, where he does have a bigger role than in some of the other movies. What's the other one?
Sicario?
Yeah, I mean he's pretty big in that one too. And but again, it's another cartel movie. So yeah, he does get kind of pigeonholed there.
And I think he is from Colombia. Correct me if I'm.
Is he not Puerto Rican?
Rico.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so he is definitely Hispanic, and you know that when you're doing those kind of roles, you want to stay on, I guess, ethnicity as much as you can. But that's what I'm saying is where he does that, and then I think it's so blaring, like his role in Usual Suspects. And this is a little bit earlier in the topic that I usually kind of talk about the Twitter poll, because every time we do a real actors or a director's cut, I always kind of want to throw it out to social media a little bit and ask, you know, what is your favorite performance or what is your favorite film of whatever subject matter we're talking about? And I just figured it was not even going to be a contest. I thought Dr. Gonzo from Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas was just going to absolutely walk away with it. And I was really surprised. Do you guys know which one won? Which one do you think won? Of all his performances, what do you think? Okay. Beck?
What was the one that Deb said?
She said Guardians.
I hope it's not Guardians. I said this last time about this, and I said I hope it wasn't, and then it totally was.
Yeah.
I don't know. Traffic,
or
maybe
Star Wars.
Maybe Star Wars. It's always going to be Star Wars, isn't it?
It was Star Wars last time with Ewan McGregor, but this time it was actually Usual Suspects, and
okay.
I was a little bit surprised because I think that I don't know, and we could jump right into Fear and Loathing because that's kind of the first thing and all that. And Fear and Loathing, he just completely transformed into. I mean, it didn't even matter what ethnicity he was. He was just this weird kind of reminded me of my father, but this weird like druggy scumbag guy. And God rest his soul. And it's just like he stole every scene he was in, but it was hard because Johnny Depp, that was one of his best performances, if not his best performance as well, portraying Hunter S. Thompson. And it was, you know, anything by Terry Gilliam's going to be absolutely batshit crazy. But I thought that performance-wise, that's definitely, you know, you think of Benicio Del Toro, you think of Dr. Gonzo.
Well, yeah, he gained 60 pounds for the role.
Just a slob.
I mean, he was just amazing. I mean, that movie is like my favorite movie. One of my top 3 favorites of ever. There are some scenes that he's in that he completely steals from. I mean, and not that Johnny Depp isn't amazing, because he is, but that is my favorite role of his, and it always will be. He's absolutely insane, and I love it. I told Becki that I would have loved to have gone on that trip with them, like for real. Even in the movie to go. I mean, either way, it would have been amazing just to be with those two, like with Depp and I mean, it would have been incredible. I mean, they were both amazing, and Del Toro's performance was incredible in that movie. Absolutely incredible.
What was your favorite scene back from Fear and Loathing?
I keep thinking of the bathtub. That's all I think of. Like, how disgusting and like I don't know. There's the whole bathtub scene is just I can't. I will forever. It will forever be ingrained in my brain. But his performance was completely transformative in that film. I mean, he's almost unrecognizable, and the fact that I think that also Benicio del Toro has made an art out of mumbling, like not exactly like projecting.
Maybe he really mumbles.
But the thing is, like, he doesn't project particularly well, but somehow that like you understand every word he says, and he delivers every line perfectly in his own design, by his own design. And I think that's Fear and Loathing to a T. Yeah, well, they're both mumbling through the whole thing. I mean, it's kind of a miracle that we know we know any of the dialogue. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, that movie was unbelievably.
But you're right. That's kind of his brand, though, right? He mumbles through a lot. Maybe that's why he doesn't get a lot of dialogue parts.
Well, but you know what? Like I said before, another actor that comes to mind that was very similar in that way was James Dean. He would come into a room and he would steal the scene from many actors that were his predecessors or his, I wouldn't want to say superior, but someone like Rock Hudson in Giant hated James Dean because every time he walked into a room, this kid would walk in the room and mumble his lines and do like a little thing with his hands or a rope, you know, like in, for example, the lasso scene in Giant, and would just absolutely steal the scene away from Rock Hudson, who was the man that everyone went to the movies to go see, right? Rock Hudson, Liz Taylor. But here comes James Dean, steals the scene with like three mumbled lines and a rope.
And smolder, right?
And smolder. And I think that James Dean Benicio Del Toro has a very similar style in that way, where he comes into a room, he'll mumble his lines or just deliver them in that sort of smoldery, mumbly way, not necessarily, and just he doesn't even look like he's acting. You just feel like you're in the room watching him speak or do whatever he's doing, and steals the scene. And to me, he does it obviously in Fear and Loathing, but not quite as smoldery, more sloppy and disgusting, but still really effective and amazing. And so I don't know, that style of his acting just transcends in every film, I think.
He has that presence. He has that presence about him where, like you said, James Dean, he walks in a room and it's all eyes on him. I mean, whether it's the mumbling or it's the whatever it is. I mean, he has something about him that is so like, I don't know what's the right word. It's just so strong.
Magnetizing, maybe?
Magnetism,
yeah. He just takes the scene. It just becomes his scene, whether it's one word or fire, whatever. He takes it over. Absolutely. So as far as Fear and Loathing, my favorite scene, I have to share this real quick. When they're in Circus on the, you know that bar that rotates, and they're both on mescaline, and they're trying to get off the road.
Oh God!
Although
it's so good.
Slow, it's going so slow, and they can't get off the damn bar. I love that scene. And the bathtub; those are my two favorites.
I may or may not have a similar story, but anyway, moving on. But I think my favorite scene, as far as that goes, is the adrenal gland scene or whatever.
Oh yeah.
It's just nuts. Where he's like has tits on the side of his body and all this stuff, and he's just this crazy devil-looking guy. And then the next scene, it's like that's when Johnny Depp really kind of freaks out and kind of takes a turn. And then I think like the next time you see Dr. Gonzo, he's kind of normal again. And that's what's funny is because he's kind of the enabler of Hunter S. Thompson, but he also is he also kind of like lives in that scumminess and that lifestyle so much that he could snap out of it kind of when he needs to, until like the very end when he's like pointing a gun at Johnny Depp and all that. But I mean, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas was like one of those early movies that I saw when I was a young kid that just turned me into a big film fan, a big acting fan. I mean, just wanting to see or just wanting to emulate Johnny Depp doing that. You were watching Jack Sparrow. He just didn't have a beard in that.
Jack Sparrow, like in his movements. I mean, yeah, he does have a lot of Jack Sparrow in that. You're right.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just weird looking back, and I've been really like tooth and nail trying to review the movie Swimming with Sharks, because I think that is a film that's just like really criminally under reviewed and under discussed, because I think it's such an amazing film, and it was like Blockbuster just sitting on the shelves, and I probably would have never known about it unless that I worked there when I was younger. And that was with Kevin Spacey. It was Kevin Spacey's movie, but Benicio Del Toro was in it, and I remember that's really the first time I saw him. And he is just in this. He's just this kind of it's set in kind of an office space type deal. But Benicio Del Toro is there, and he plays this guy named Rex, and he's just this kind of like douchey office guy. But when I think back at Swimming with Sharks, he sticks out even then. I mean, he is a young Benicio Del Toro, and I think that movie's like 1994 when it was released. One of Kevin Spacey's like first kind of movies that people were watching. But he just, like you guys both stated very eloquently, it's just like he sticks out. He doesn't have to do much. He just interacts a little bit with the characters in Swimming with Sharks, and that's one of the things that you're like, oh yeah, he's in that as well. So it's incredible that, and not too many actors, especially ones that get cast so much in ensemble roles, have that kind of pull.
I didn't see that one, so I can't. I didn't see that one. I'm embarrassed now because I didn't see that one.
I actually didn't see. I have seen Swimming with Sharks, but it's been many years since I saw it, so I have nothing to add about that one. But if you want to see a really young Benicio Del Toro, go back to Basquiat. I'm sure that I'm saying this completely wrong. Basquiat, about the artist, and that's also the film where David Bowie plays Andy Warhol. But if you really want to geek out and see a really interesting film, go back and watch that one. Not only for the Benicio Del Toro performance, but also for the David Bowie performance.
I didn't know Bowie was in that one. Oh my god!
Bowie plays Andy Warhol. Yeah.
I have to watch that when we're done. Okay.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing where it's just like I went to go look for Benicio Del Toro movies to rewatch or watch, and it was just so intensive and so long. So I just kind of picked like the greatest hits of what a lot of people would have known and talked about. But then we talked about Swimming with Sharks for 10 minutes.
Right. Yeah. It's pretty vast, and like I said, he didn't really surface until the 90s, but he's been doing stuff for a while.
So let's jump into Usual Suspects just a little bit, because I have a lot of fans in the chat really want to talk about Usual Suspects as well. But that was one that, Debbie, I think you said you were trying to rewatch it. It just wasn't grabbing you.
With that one, I can't. I know I've seen it like 3 or 4 times, and my brain has this block against that for some reason. I don't even know what happened.
Is it because of Daniel Baldwin?
Maybe. I mean, I couldn't even tell you. All I know is Kevin Spacey blew the guy up in the end, and that's all I don't even know. I honestly, I just watched it 2 days ago. I fell asleep again. Wow. I know it's a great movie, but I can't seem to get past the first 20 minutes.
Becki, how do you feel about Usual Suspects?
It's obviously an epic, iconic film, I think, as far as movies go, and it is one of those. I'm guilty of not having seen it in a while. This is one that I can't go with you on a details tour because I haven't watched it in many years. Now, there are obviously the end sticks out to me because it's one of those endings that we all watched and went, holy crap. But it was a different twist on those sort of 90s movies that we were all watching. I mean, there was like a string of films during that time that all sort of came out at the same time, that kind of and I'll get more into that when we talk about Traffic later.
Sure.
But Benicio's performance, I'm guilty, just like Debbie, of not. Well, Debbie's just seen it. I can't comment too much on it because I don't remember. Is that sad?
Well, no, it's totally fine, and that was one where I'm like, oh, I feel confident enough because of how many times I watched it when I was watching it, like when I was younger, that I could talk about it. But I'm just so glad that I did. It's a Bryan Singer film, and it's like smarter than a Bryan Singer film because now Bryan Singer just does a lot of like comic book movies and stuff like that, which they're not bad. Like I like most of his X-Men movies, but but aside from that, it was just Benicio Del Toro's performance sticks out because he is completely doing a bit. He, you think Brad Pitt stealing the show in Snatch because of the pikey. He is a pikey in Usual Suspects. It is so hilarious. As I think his name's Fenster. Let me pull it up. Yeah, I just wrote Fenster, but it is so funny because, and that's the joke. That's the running joke. And again, like Snatch, it kind of parallels a little bit. He doesn't, and this is spoiler alert, for like a 20-plus-year-old movie, but he does not make it. Maybe he makes it like halfway through. He's in it a little bit more than he is in Snatch, but he is so funny because he just literally blurts out words, and everyone and there's no like real accent. It doesn't even state like what accent.
He's a mumbler.
Yeah, he just talks really fast. He's like, flip it for real. And they're just like, what? Like no one understands what he's saying, but that's kind of what's important with him in his character in the movie, because, he's just supposed to be this, like, everyone views him on face value as like a bumbling idiot. But then, while they're kind of introducing everyone with dialogue, they said like Fenster actually is the kind of the mastermind of the group a little bit, and he's like the facilitator. But it's just so funny that he's just blurting out these crazy random things. I loved the role, and the lineup scene is absolutely iconic. When he's going out and he's just like, oh man, someone in the chat help me out, but it's something like "fuck you, cocksucker" or something like that. But when he goes up, because of his accent, he's saying it. And it's so funny because he's just like, and he starts laughing, and then the rest of the lineup laughs too. It's such a small role, but such a great role. And I get why people, because it's so unique, and it's almost like he's doing a bit, and he's like in his own movie, and it's almost to the point where it's just like, that's a little bit too much. That's like overacting, but it works so well because it just kind of skates that line of being too silly in this kind of serious, movie. I guess Usual Suspects, it is kind of funny at times, but, for the most part, it is kind of silly, and it casted comedic actors like Kevin Pollak and Baldwin and all that. And then you put Gabriel O'Brien, who's just no fun at all. But Kevin Spacey, who's at the time was a creeper, but no one knew about it. And he just was that's an iconic performance from him. But, long story short, I was a little surprised that Usual Suspects won the best performance on the Twitter poll, but then watching it again last night, I'm just like, okay, it is so unique and so much fun. I guess, hats off to that performance.
I'll have to try again. I'll have to try watching it again. I know it's an amazing movie. Everyone loves it, and no one has anything bad to say about it. I have to really sit down and focus on it and watch it and like pay attention and really try to get there. But that lineup scene is great. And it almost seems like when he laughs, that laughter is genuine, and like everyone cracks up. And then they left it in the movie because it was so funny. But
absolutely, and it's funny because it's a funny dichotomy from what he usually does, like you guys said, where he just kind of walks in a room, doesn't say much, and just has that magnetism to him. And then this one, he's saying too much all the time, and he has that magnetism to him. So that's why. I mean, he's just so amazing. Why don't we talk a little bit about dare I say more Benicio Del Toro roles, and we could just kind of jump right into Traffic. So Becky, why don't you kick us off with Traffic?
So I just would like to start off by saying I resent you for making me watch an old Michael Douglas movie over again. I don't know what it is about old Michael Douglas movies, but I always feel like I need like a Silkwood shower afterwards because
I love him. He's so sleazy.
Pinchy and like Michael Douglas-y, and I'm like, and I actually think he's all right in Spider-Man, right? Or Ant-Man. Sorry, Ant-Man. I actually like him in Ant-Man because
he's kind of like our Uncle Sheldon.
A little bit, but like I knew that was going to come up. I was prepared for that, and I agree. And we've always said that, and I think Mom actually nailed that first. I think Mom was the one that said, "Oh, she was." Yeah.
That's hilarious.
It is totally hilarious. But anyway, I digress. Michael Douglas, watching old Michael Douglas movies totally makes my skin crawl a little bit. But that movie is excellent, and Benicio's amazing. And The thing is, it's that it's one of the films that he's typecast in, and we were talking about it before. I almost feel like Hollywood's like, oh, we need a dark Hispanic figure to play in this drug cartel movie. Why, let's call Benicio Del Toro. And I don't know if that's like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, is it Hollywood being discriminatory and whatever? I'm sure there's that in there, but he's made quite a name for himself just playing those parts. So I can't feel bad for him, I guess. He does it, whatever he tackles, he kills it. He nails it. He does it so well. And his character in Traffic, I love it. I love the twist of it. And I love how when I rewatched Traffic, I understood what Jonathan said to me in a conversation in text, where he said, going back and watching Traffic is kind of watching the evolution of Benicio Del Toro's character in Sicario. So I saw that. I totally saw that. Although, well, I guess we'll talk about Sicario a little bit, but I see the connection completely. Although I think Sicario is way darker. Obviously.
Oh, for sure.
So, but yes, I think that, I don't know. And it's this understated performance in Traffic, you know, where it's a lot of expression and him standing around and him reacting to other things. And to me, that's really interesting to watch him do that. Like, it's very engaging and it's compelling, you know?
It was really deep. I mean, his character in Traffic was very deep. I think it was one of his deepest roles. I mean, here he is living in a city that's completely corrupt, and all he wants is a baseball field for the kids. I mean, that's all he wants.
Yeah.
And the things that he sees, the torture that they put these people through. I mean, he doesn't stomach it well, and he doesn't portray your stereotypical TJ cop who's like, you know, after the money and pay me, I'll fix this and that. I mean, I thought he was amazing in Traffic. He was absolutely amazing, and the way they wrote his character was very genuine and very non-corrupted, and it seemed like it was very easy for him. It was like he wasn't even acting; he was just being that person.
Well, and the challenging thing was probably not challenging for him, but just to kind of portray an interesting character for an American audience is he's subtitled through, you know, more than half the movie. I think most of his lines, I think there's like maybe 15% of his lines where he's actually talking to the DEA members across the border when he makes them take him to like a public pool,
yeah.
Which is great. where he has, which is like weird and stark contrast of like, it's like, oh, and here's comedy to a very weird backdrop, or, you know, a very dark backdrop with Traffic. But
he got shit done. He still got shit done. I mean, he took care of it.
Someone just said in chat that they just reminded us that, yes, Benicio did win an Oscar for Traffic, and I believe it was for a supporting role. Supporting actor. Mm-hmm.
He did.
And he should. I mean, it was one of those, they gave him a lot to do as far as kind of cruising around in cars, but they gave him some emotional depth in this movie. And you know, his character is just kind of like this beat cop that's dipping his toe into the corruption because, you know, at that time, and maybe it's still that way, you know, if you watch Sicario, it's still that way, where I forgot what the line is in Traffic, where it's just like the Mexican police or the Mexican law enforcement is more of a, I forgot what the direct line is, but it's basically just like, it's kind of for hire, for lack of a better term. And it shows that like he and his partner are just kind of trying to do it right. And then these opportunities kind of come up where it's this like big figurehead. I think the guy's name was Castro or something like that. Where he was Salazar. Thank you. He was the kind of Michael Douglas on the other side, but of course he was corrupt too, and his whole agenda was just to wipe out the other cartel. Where, you know, once you get kind of mixed up in that, he what's his face, Javier Rodriguez. He kind of tries to do that, but then it just goes spinning out of control, and he's trying to be the voice of reason and everything for his partner, and then he just kind of completely goes off the deep end and then just kind of does his own agenda. So I like that you get this giant emotional character arc for his character, and it's kind of I'm glad that he won the award because it is kind of overshadowed by a lot of great performances. I thought Don Cheadle was great. I thought he was underrated in that, and then everyone remembers everything that's going on with Michael Douglas, his daughter, and what's her Catherine Zeta-Jones. So I'm glad he got the recognition, and yeah, like I said before, I feel like this is the kind of origin story of what was to become Sicario, or his character in Sicario. I think that a lot of these films, they kind of figure out how much to dial up or dial back the Hispanic in Benicio Del Toro, because some films just go full on, we're gonna let him, we just want him to be really Latin, or they want to dial it back into the point where he's Jewish in Snatch. But the fact that he could do that in those intervals is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and that shows his range as an actor. And when he takes roles that are and he's playing a Mexican in Traffic, however, he is not Mexican. So that we want to make sure that we're not confusing, making
sure,
lumping that all together. Those are different cultures, different people. But yeah, it is interesting to see his range. He definitely has a range, and I'm happy to recognize that someone like Benicio Del Toro, who is indeed a minority, and someone that's representing an ethnic culture, can be given opportunities to show his range. Of course, it's also up to him as far as what roles he's willing to accept. And I think he's been very smart about the roles that he has accepted for himself and how he's able to, use his instrument, I guess. No, that was anyway.
Hello.
What?
I just totally derailed myself. I don't even know what just happened. I don't even know what just happened.
What happened? I don't even know what happened. What happened? I was listening. I'm like, yeah, preach on, sister.
I meant his instrument as in his acting vessel. This is not getting any better.
Debbie's like, yep, hello. That's hilarious. All right, well, moving along, going to another kind of similar role, but another movie that I think was chronically underwatched. But this was way of the gun. If you just do yourself a favor, anybody, go. If you don't want to sit through, a 90-minute movie, kind of a shoot 'em up, then just go on YouTube and watch the first 5 minutes of The Way of the Gun, because it has the best opening of any movie ever. And I don't want to spoil it. There's a lot of curse words. There's a lot of bad words. But Sarah Silverman's in it. And Ryan Felipe, I can never say his name right. Philippe, whatever.
It doesn't matter.
The blonde poodle guy. He looks like a poodle.
Oh.
And then him and Benicio Del Toro. It's the best intro of a movie I've ever seen. But again, this is seeing him from a co-lead standpoint. And like we've kind of talked about before a little bit, he doesn't say a whole lot, but he does play off so well with just entrenched veterans like James Caan. Like the scene at the diner is one of my favorites of this, and some shootouts. Debbie, I think you just watched Way of the Gun.
I had never even heard of it before, and you mentioned it, and I watched it last night or the night before. I was hooked. The first 10 minutes, it got me. I mean, the opening was amazing, and that it hooked me right in there. As brutal of a character as he was, there was still some comedic value there, and for some reason, it reminded me of it had a Tarantino tone to it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It had a Tarantino vibe to it.
Rodriguez, a little Robert Rodriguez in there too.
Yeah. And I mean, I thought it was a great movie. I mean, he's like heartless, but he's not. I mean, you know what I'm saying? He was he shot like everyone. I mean, he didn't give a damn, but
he killed all the people.
He killed all the people, but he still there was something in him that was. It was like a total. I don't know. I really enjoyed that movie. I thought he was great. I don't know if it was meant to be funny. Was it meant to be funny?
I think the intro scene was meant to be funny because it's fucking hilarious.
It is hilarious, and that was. I mean, it was Juliette Lewis. I think she overacted a little bit in that one.
Well, it's Juliette Lewis.
over, and Ryan Philippe I could do without really ever, but I think his role in that was amazing, and I think it was very underrated. I'd never even heard of it before you mentioned it to me, and it ended up being one of my favorite roles of his, because I mean, again, he's speaking a lot of Spanish, and he's still, again, he's got a gun. It's like a cartel thing, like the other ones. But with James Caan, and there's some really big names in it, and he still stole every scene he was in because that's just who he is. But I really enjoyed. It was a great movie. It was a great movie. It's very underrated and underappreciated.
And that was you just found that in preparation for this too, right, Beck?
I did, actually. I knew about the film. I don't think it ever really called to me specifically. But I watched it, and I have a lot of feels and things to say about this film.
Okay.
First of all, it was kind of cool to see, aside from Benicio Del Toro, it was kind of cool to see Juliette Lewis and her father acting in the same film. Jeffrey Lewis, obviously. Jeffrey Lewis is the guy from Any Which Way But Loose, Every Which Way But Loose.
I didn't know.
And he's
the guy that has like the best intro in the movie where he's sitting there playing Russian roulette with himself.
Yes, that's Jeffrey Lewis. That's actually Juliette Lewis's natural real father in real life. He's now passed away, obviously, but it was kind of cool to see the two of them on screen together. Also, how is James Caan still how is he still an effective badass in a members only jacket? I don't know how that works, but it does. I don't know why that's a thing, but it's obviously a thing. Apparently, he has proven that he can be a badass in like dad pants pulled way up high and a members only jacket. That was like brilliant.
That means you're a real badass.
Yeah, right. I love the scenes with Benicio Del Toro and James Caan. The one scene in the diner where they fantastic.
So good.
And I also have feels about Ryan Philippe's like prosthetic arm with the glass hanging out when he like jumps into the I can see the sleeve, and you guys know I'm a makeup artist, so this particular thing stood out to me, and I'm like, why did you even? I don't even know. Anyway, that was a thing.
That movie had no budget. The fact that it had the actors it did is surprising. So
yeah, and that's forgiving, but I love the camp value of this film. Yeah. There were moments during like the shootout scenes where I felt like I was sitting with my dad watching those old westerns that I would sit and watch with my dad when I was a kid, and I fell in love with it. How do you not? And I had totally agree that Juliette Lewis overreacted. If I had to sit through another moment of her screaming,
when you were pregnant,
I might have killed myself. I might have been playing Russian roulette.
Nobody pregnant walks like she walked. I'm sorry.
I can't even.
Listen, I've had 4 children. My wife has never screamed once during delivery.
I had twins. I never walked like she walked.
I have also been pregnant, and I have never walked like that ever. Going back to Benicio, though, I think that it was really interesting to see, because I think Ryan Philippe is pretty much terrible. We can all agree on that. I can't get past the way he speaks. I don't know what it is. It's probably being mean, and I'm sorry to Ryan Philippe, but I'm sure he's laughing all the way to the bank, so I don't feel too bad.
Well, he's in the chat right now, so please be careful.
Hi. I'm sorry about your speech impediment. I don't know. Benicio Del Toro's acting, in contrast with Ryan Philippe's performance, it just makes him all the better. I mean, he's almost has to make up for all the non-acting that Ryan Philippe is doing. Do you know what I mean? And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed watching more. I'm okay with more Benicio, but again, not a lot of dialogue on Benicio's part. So it's almost like every line he delivers is really significant and amazing.
Even though without a lot of dialogue, he owned that movie.
Oh, but some of the lines though, like where she's making them feel the baby kick. He's like, you don't want like guys like him and I touching your baby.
Right.
And then he like pushes her face. I'm like, oh my god, it's just such a good line. Because I mean, he is the James Caan of that side, of the kidnapper side, right? Like he's already like years and mental leaps and bounds above Ryan Philippe, but Ryan Philippe is this kind of like up and comer kind of, whatever. He still has some heart where Benicio Del Toro not only like double crosses him for a second, but then saves his life when he's like, "Oh, I left my jacket," and then like realizes by just looking at the hotel room door, and he knows, he's like, "Oh fuck, we left the shotgun there. She's probably posted up," and he saves his life right there. And Ryan Philippe's about to pop a cap in his ass, and he doesn't. So it's just so great, and he's just so classy in this role where everyone is a scumbag. Everyone is just a complete piece of trash in this film, except him and James Caan. And he's just so super classy. Like even at the end where when they have that diner scene, and then they walk outside and he and James Caan are just like, or James Caan's just like, "Are you sure? Like, this is a good deal. You've been in this game for a while." And he's just like, "I wish I could, but I can't accept it." And he's like, "Okay, well, until that day." And then at the very end of the movie, obviously he gets bested, and James Caan's walking away. And while he's walking over his dying body, he just looks up and says, "Until that day." So he's just like, "Good on you. You got me." Like those two were so much more smart than everyone else. Even the like skeezy little doctor. The doctor was just I couldn't stand that guy.
Oh, I hated him.
Everyone was overacting except he and James Caan.
Yeah, horrible.
Yeah. Oh.
What's so funny is that movie. I feel like it's such a male draw, and I feel like when I watch it, I'm like, this is for boys. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like this is a movie for boys. But I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I'm just interacting with the chat real quick. Let's jump over. Why don't we talk a little bit about Snatch? We kind of did, but that's like I said, and we kind of already talked about it. But just one of those roles where he's not a focal point, although he is. Like the whole movie, he's the one that kicks everything into play, and he's a very integral role to it. But it's not one of those roles where it's just like, okay, we could just pop anyone in there. Just him, saying bookies is just interesting in that movie. Yeah. And he's just so goddamn amazing in that role, and he's not in it for very long.
Agreed. Yeah. I loved that movie from the get-go. Like that was one of those movies, those like hardcore like Brit movies. I'm all about them. Like they are, very few have I seen where I'm like, oh, that sucks. There's always something that I love about them. And in this particular film, the fact that it opens with Benicio being a big old Jew and our family being Jewish,
big old Jews, yeah,
these big old Jews. Yeah. Our family being Jewish, and growing up with a lot of oy veys in our family, I think it's hilarious, and I get a big kick out of watching Benicio Del Toro as a Hasidic Jew with the little curls and everything. It's awesome. And the movie, even as he meets his brutal end in the film, it goes on to be such a beautiful film. It's so much fun. Yeah,
it's still about him. Right. He's gone. It's still about him and the case and everything. And takes over.
Travis in the chat from Vitamin TX. This is a question for Becki. He wants to know what movie Benicio Del Toro uses his tool, like you were saying earlier.
Oh my God, I can't believe it. Because Jonathan, this is really funny. Jonathan wasn't listening and doesn't understand the context of the question now. So he asks me again. We've moved on. As far as I'm concerned, Benicio Del Toro can use his tool in all the movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
However he sees fit. I mean, in the name of art.
Of course. Let's keep it classy-ish. Let's talk about a movie that I haven't seen that I'm going to defer to you ladies. And maybe, actually, I don't even know, Deb, if you've seen this movie, but I know Becki somehow got the show notes mixed up and watched 21 Grams when I know I didn't say.
I didn't see it.
I have proof, Deb. Like, I have it in there that I never said 21 Grams, and Becki just kept saying, well, I just started 21 Grams. I just watched 21 Grams. And I'm like, I didn't say to watch that movie because I did not. But talk about 21 Grams, Beck.
Oh, Jesus Christ Almighty! Well, you know what? You got me so riled up with the Michael Douglas that I have to watch. I had to like cleanse myself and watch another movie. But 21 Grams, I saw 21 Grams in the movie theater when it was new, and I forgot that I'd seen it because I don't know, I'm old and I forget things. But I just watched it again, and it's still good. It holds up. I mean, it's great film. It's long. It's one of those movies that moves a little slow. Did either of you guys see it?
No.
I haven't seen it.
Oh crap! So I'm the only one. Anyway,
yeah, go for it. What is it about?
Grams. Well, 21 Grams is essentially about all these different stories that sort of come together. 21 grams is a reference to the amount of fluid that you lose in your body when you die. They say that you roughly lose 21 grams of body fluid, blood. I don't know, whatever.
Okay.
It's a post-mortem reference. And Benicio Del Toro's character in this is insane. I'm shocked that you guys. I think that this performance is really, really significant out of all of his performances because he doesn't get a lot of roles where he's carrying a lot of the story himself, and he doesn't get a lot of screen time. This is definitely a more significant role for Benicio Del Toro. He's this ex-con turned religious fanatic, has a family. They kind of live in a low-income area, and he's kind of trying to help I guess teenagers that are in trouble by preaching the gospel. And so he's had sort of a rough life himself. He runs hot, he's got a temper. He's done some damage to people in his life, and they don't really go a lot into his past. You just know that he's an ex-con, and then then he winds up killing a family by freak accident. So here he is trying to live his life by the word of God, and then runs over a father and his two little girls and kills the whole family. This whole family. Naomi Watts plays a woman it's her family, and she's kind of an ex-drug addict who was dealing with drug addiction and everything, but got clean because her family was everything to her. And then now here she is with a dead whole, all of her family wiped out in one accident. And he hits and runs, by the way.
Was he drunk, or was he?
No, he's sober because he found Jesus. See,
oh,
and ironically, the church gives him the truck that he runs over the girls and the father with, and so he goes he turns himself in. His wife, Benicio Del Toro's wife, tries to cover it up. And then there's Sean Penn in there, and has a terminal disease and gets a heart transplant. Anyway, there's a whole thing. But Benicio,
it's another ensemble cast. Then
it's another ensemble cast. Benicio, that is an extremely dark and intense performance for him. He does go to jail, and then he questions the whole Jesus thing. It is extremely dark, and is
it worth a watch?
Worth the watch. It's absolutely
apparently because Becki couldn't stop watching it.
Well, I've seen it before and then I thought, well, I might as well just watch the rest of it now that I already, But it's a powerful performance by Benicio Del Toro. It is one that is not rooted in ethnicity or anything like that. It is a very different performance, I think, for him, but really has a lot of screen time, great dialogue, and it's also heartbreaking. And I highly suggest it. I'm a little surprised that we're not talking more about it because it is a very significant role for him, I think.
Hey, just like when we did Kevin Smith and we didn't do Cop Out.
See, I didn't. Kevin Smith was something because I had not brushed up on a lot. It was my first show with you, I think, and I had not brushed up on a lot of my Kevin Smith material.
Actually. Wrong. Your first show was. What was it? It was the Muppet Man, Jim Henson.
Jim Henson, that's right.
I've been drinking.
Yes.
I
just have a bad memory.
Well, you and I have, Deb. All right, moving on. Sin City, one that I rewatched today, but only until he was done, and then I turned it off because I didn't realize
he wasn't on the original list. Sin City, and I'm like, Sin City. You're like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, Sin City, because he plays I love his role in Sin City.
Yeah, I did too, but I just didn't love Sin City as much as I did when I was younger.
But I loved him in Sin City.
he is Benicio Del Toro could be a super creep, and that's what he did so well in this role. His name's Jack Rafferty, which just sounds like a rapey role.
Boy.
Oh man, it's just so gross, and it's weird. It's kind of heartbreaking seeing him act against Brittany Murphy, because that was kind of a tragic story. But I was watching it. I'm just like, I was getting real bored. I was about to turn it off. I'm like, man, I thought I liked Sin City more. And where the fuck is Benicio Del Toro? Like, he is one of the people on the cover. He's on the sleeve, and then he finally shows up, and he's got this weird little prosthetic nose, and but he chews up the scenery. Everyone does. Everyone's larger than life in Sin City. I don't need to sell that to you. Everyone's probably already seen it. But Beck, did you see Sin City?
Again, that's another one I haven't seen for many years.
Yeah,
so I do remember loving the style and the look of the film. As far as speaking to Benicio's performance specifically, I can't really say much.
Yeah, it was just one of those movies where I remembered it better than it was, and I think maybe that's just like an of the times thing, because it was groundbreaking when it came out, that style of filmmaking, and it was Robert Rodriguez and it was Mark Miller and Quentin Tarantino directed like a segment of it, and a lot of it was kind of cool, and
Bruce Willis, but Bruce Willis.
Oh, but Bruce Willis and Josh Hartnett, and it was just like, ooh.
I did like Josh Hartnett recently I just forgot the name of it now. And I watched it 3 times, and I love it, and I've known it until I just tried to pull it up. It's a series on Netflix, and it'll come to me.
Okay. I mean, he was one of those kids of the 90s, like a Ryan Philippe, where they were just kind of in everything back then, and it's not like he tanked the thing. The art style, the costumes, there was a lot to love about Sin City. The prosthetics, because a lot of it, it was like over stylized, and it was supposed to be, because it was supposed to be a living comic book. But everyone had those like Dick Tracy kind of features to him. Like Mickey Rourke is a weird looking dude, anyways. But then you put a chin on him.
Surgery. They didn't have to do makeup on him. They just
exactly. And then all they did was stick a schnoz on Benicio Del Toro. But his performance was very short. I mean, he was only in it for like 15 minutes. But he just is the scummiest, nastiest, a person that you do not want to meet in a dark alley. So
on top of it all, you're like, no way.
Oh, of course, they always are. The Wolfman. Did you guys see the Wolfman?
I have not seen the Wolfman.
Really?
No, never saw it.
I just never got there.
You're not missing much. No, I mean, Anthony Hopkins, Benicio Del Toro, that's your 2 main leads, and I could not stand this movie.
No.
You know what I think is really sad? I'm gonna speak on this just for a moment. Is the failure on Universal's part to pay homage or revive the old Universal monster movies in a respectful way. I have no interest in seeing the Tom Cruise Mummy. I know that it actually flopped, and it was supposed to be part. No, he was in the revival of the Mummy that just came out last year, I think it was. But there was supposed to be this whole Universal Dark Universe or whatever, where they were going to revive all these Universal monsters again. And what a pile of garbage.
Tom Cruise. Anything with Tom Cruise is bad.
Anything with Tom Cruise.
It was the worst. Oh, well, that's not true. Like, Edge of Tomorrow was great. Tom Cruise is good at what he's good at. Oh, I just almost knocked everyone over.
As an actor, maybe, but as a person, I just can't go there.
I don't think he's that great of an actor either, to be honest.
I don't like him as a person, but I think that, like I said, he's good at what he's good at. Just coming off of the Paul Thomas Anderson watches, like, his performance, maybe because it was like so true to actual Tom Cruise. It was Tom Cruise playing fantasy Tom Cruise in Magnolia. I was like, oh yeah. But yeah, Wolfman, I don't know, and I'm getting some heat in the chat. Like, there's some Wolfman fans apparently, but I didn't like it. I don't know. I just thought it was a little boring, and then it was like super boring. And then it was like super gory and violent. And then it was super boring again. And then it was super violent and gory. And then it just went on like that for like 3 hours. And it just did not hold my attention whatsoever.
I if you want to love this is, I know, off topic of Benicio, but if you want to love what like the best werewolf movie ever, it's gonna have to be American Werewolf in London.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh yeah, I mean we could talk about that for probably 2 hours by itself.
Yeah.
And maybe we will come Halloween. We have a big October planned. People watching this.
That's my month. That's my month right there.
Yeah, I think that's all 3 of our months, and I think we're about to go off. Maybe a real actors every week for the month of October, but because we have a lot to talk about. Let's talk about Benicio's like kind of more character roles, kind of minor. These are real minor, but it just seems like everyone that's anyone is in these films, and this is one, and this is 2 film franchises, of course, that are so damn popular that where it's on the opposite end, where you make a smaller film like a Snatch or something, and Benicio is in a smaller role, or like The Usual Suspects, and he sticks out and he elevates it. But then you have him in Guardians in the MCU, and then you also have him in Star Wars. And those are just so clogged. Talk about ensemble casts. Those are so clogged with people and characters and things to look at and special effects, vomit everywhere all the time, that you kind of forget that Benicio Del Toro is in both of the franchises. In the MCU, he's the Collector. In Star Wars, he is, I think his name's DJ or something. What do you guys think about that?
Well,
Go
ahead, Deb. Go ahead, Deb.
Yeah, Deb.
I was going to say, I think it's a super smart move for him to get into both franchises. I mean, it's like a super smart move because they're the 2 biggest ones that we have right now. But again, small roles, but big roles. Small roles with big impact. Star Wars, he was kind of a despicable character, and he was kind of an asshole, but he still had a huge impact. And same thing with Guardians, with Infinity Wars. I mean, he's still, although I will say in Guardians, to me, I mean, Becki got me into the whole MCU in general. And so I never realized he was the one who explained the whole story of the Infinity Stones. I mean, he's the one who explains the whole thing. And I realized that when I watched it for the 3rd or 4th time, that is such an important role. That's such an important thing he did. Otherwise, like, you wouldn't know. I mean, small role, huge importance. So that's
right, absolutely. And what's interesting to me, I loved him in Star Wars, and I'm going to talk about Guardians and Star Wars as separate things, because the thing that stood out to me about his role in Star Wars is he's in his 50s, and I think that his role in Star Wars proved that he could still pull off a youthful role. I felt like he was like young Benicio Del Toro in that. Like there was no part of his 50s that were portrayed in that character in Star Wars. I felt he was younger. I felt it was, he was, I don't know. I don't know. I'm looking for a word, but I'm at a loss right now, and I'm not even the one drinking. But I really felt like that was a more youthful role that he pulled off so well, even at his age. And then as far as Guardians go, okay. So we know that I'm a huge Guardians. It's no secret. This is like, I can geek out about Guardians all day, but I can't talk about his role in Guardians without talking about his role in Guardians transcending to Disneyland, of course. So he's actually in the attraction Mission Breakout at California Adventure, and they have this huge bronze statue of Benicio as the Collector in the queue at the entranceway of the attraction. And he does do an on-screen, a brief on-screen performance inside the attraction as the Collector. And I mean, the whole attraction is based on the Collector. I mean, the whole structure of the building is supposed to be Tavon's his lair, where he displays the all of his the things he's collected throughout the universe.
I mean, he has Howard the Duck there.
Yes,
he has Howard the Duck. He has Cosmo the dog, which a lot of people don't know who that is, but Cosmo is very obviously he is more prominent in the comics, and Cosmo and Rocket obviously have like a more volatile relationship, which they kind of give a nod to in the Guardians film when Rocket enters Tavon's his office. But yes, it's amazing. The attraction itself is amazing, and I love that I get this opportunity a little bit to geek out about it, because I can't say enough cool things about the attraction itself. But Benicio does play a very significant role as the collector, not only in the films but in the actual attraction, and it is amazing in person, and I highly recommend going to experience that.
If I remember it correctly, and I don't know if everyone present has seen Infinity War, but they killed him off, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yes.
And he was in pieces. He was in little tiny pieces.
Yeah, that's why, they bring him back for that little like barrage type thing. But yeah, he's done. Like he's no longer in the thing. Where some people in chat are just like, oh, he's gonna have a bigger role in for Guardians because of Adam Warlock. But no, I think he's done.
Well,
yeah.
I don't know. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about Infinity War, do we actually see him die? I've seen Infinity War 2 times.
I've seen it like 3 times, and that motherfucker looks dead to me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, we'll see. Infinity War was so unique in that we don't really know who's dead. I mean, there you go.
I mean,
so I don't know. I can't say that I know because I don't know. There's a lot of theories and a lot of people geeking out, and
sure.
And I don't know.
I don't like that, but it was a great movie.
Oh God, talk about who's dead and who's not dead. Deb, you got to come back on for some Walking Dead, because there's just so much bullshit going on right now. I can't even. But that's beside the point. Let's move on. In Star Wars, he was just I think about him in Star Wars, and I just think about him. He is just connected to Canto Bight, and just Last Jedi. I said this ad nauseum at this point. My feelings are known that Last Jedi has some of the best Star Wars moments of any Star Wars ever. Literally, it has some great scenes, some great cinematography, but on the other side, it's just a mess. And Canto Bight was just awful. And he's from Canto Bight, and his story arc just meant nothing because it didn't progress the story at all. He's just kind of like, he'll probably be kind of like a new Han Solo type character in the Star Wars universe, but I don't know. I wasn't a fan, and I was so disappointed because when they announced that he was attached to the project, I was super stoked. And then I saw it. I'm like, oh God, this was just a waste of a great actor. And sometimes that happens with him. And, we've gone over a lot of his greatest hits, but he is a working actor. And that term is negative sometimes, because working actor just means that he takes a lot of roles. I mean, he takes a lot of roles where it's just like, with all the ones that we've discussed, those are mainstream roles. For every one of those, there's 2 or 3 that are very not so known, like A Way of the Gun, and those are just so great that we had to talk about them. But there is some Benicio Del Toro roles that are just weird and kind of like straight to, now what is considered straight to TV is like a straight to Netflix. But there's these other roles of his that he just kind of takes. He's a very prophetic entertainer where he just takes a lot of roles. So let's kind of round it out and let's kind of, Inherent Vice. I just want to touch on that briefly. I already kind of talked about it last week when we talked about with Jason Alt, when I talked about not Philip Seymour Hoffman. I mean, we talked about him a lot because he's in all those. But Paul Thomas Anderson roles, that's his worst movie. He's in Inherent Vice, and I think that movie would have been better if he was in it more, because he was just so cool in it. You guys did not see Inherent Vice, right?
No, I did not see it.
I sadly have not seen Inherent Vice.
Sadly, it's kind of a weak film, so you're not missing much. Thanos is in it. Josh Brolin's in it. He does a good job. Joaquin Phoenix does a good job. Like, all the pieces and performances are good. It's just not a very well-made film. But Sicario, let's end on a bang, ladies. Let's talk about...
There's a new Sicario out. There's a new one, which I haven't seen.
I don't think any of us saw Sicario 2.
Yeah, I'd like to.
No.
I looked for it, but I couldn't find it, so I tried.
Is Benicio in the second one?
He is the main. The whole second one is him and Josh Brolin, and that's your two leads. There's no Emily Blunt is not in it at all.
Good.
Emily Blunt. Let me tell you something. Emily Blunt, Emma Stone, and there's another one. They all are the same person.
They're all the same one. They're all the same.
I have no feelings about them either way. I can't. Emily Watson. Is that the?
Well, watch a Quiet Place. It might change your tune.
I'll watch it. I like John Krasinski, so I'll watch that. But Sicario, oh my god! Like, holy crap! Sicario is a film that, I mean, blew me away. And Benicio's character is unbelievable, and his performance in that, again, not a lot of dialogue, like for him.
Yeah.
You know, not a crazy amount of lines, but the man can act, and that's what I meant when I was talking about using his instrument earlier. I think
there you go, Travis. Full circle. There
you go. This is what I meant. This is what I really meant. I really meant that he understands how to use himself to create an unbelievable and unforgettable presence on screen. Sure. And Sicario is one of those films where he doesn't have to say a lot.
The reason why he was the way he was, it made sense. I mean, they killed his wife and they beheaded his wife and put his daughter in Nevada acid. I mean, no wonder. I mean, you're going to be a badass motherfucker if someone does that to your family. You are, and he was, and it was amazing.
Yeah, badass is definitely a word I would use to describe his performance in this movie.
But it was calm, though. He was a calm badass. It was so almost subdued, and he wouldn't get angry. He was just very quiet about what he did. His acting was amazing in that movie.
He wore a lot of different coats, or he had a lot of different hats in that movie, because he still he connected to Emily Blunt's character because she reminded him of his daughter. However, he was ready to completely spray her brains all over the dining room table if she wouldn't have signed the contract. And I think that is such a good. I mean, and we haven't really talked about this, but Benicio Del Toro does anti-hero so well. He is in Way of the Gun, he is an asshole. He is a complete stone cold killer that you're rooting for because he's kind of been through the ringer, and especially in Sicario, God, he's been through some shit. But at this point, he's kind of a Kaiser Soze. They just kind of drafted him on the good guy side, and he is just killing people. He's killing women, children, with not a blink of an eye.
Not even a blink of an eye. Yeah, not even a second thought about it. But I think it was amazing.
Right, and I agree. But that's the thing. I think that his acting also is so understated that I don't know if I was talking to Debbie about this, about how when you watch him, it almost feels like you forget that he's acting. Yeah. Like he makes acting look effortless. He walks onto the screen, delivers his line or whatever it is, and leaves making a huge impact without. And you're just like, what did I just experience? And I feel like Sicario is a lot of that. In that film, and it
seems he was so natural. He was so natural. It was nothing. It was like
right. And Benicio, he does have this style. I think my boyfriend said that he's like Benicio Del Toro. I always feel like he just woke up. Like he has this style where he's very sleepy all the time, and I do get that too. Right. But I almost feel like, because of his acting style, he doesn't really have to do much. He just does it, and it just is. And Sicario just blew my mind.
But I will say, in almost every movie he's in, he either has an accent or he's a mumbler. I mean, every single movie.
Well, he has an accent. I mean, the man has an accent.
Well, no, I know he has an accent. What I mean is, okay, let me rephrase that. It isn't necessarily his accent.
Sure.
I mean,
I see what you're saying. He's doing some kind of character, like overblown, some kind of dialect.
Right, exactly. No matter what it is. He's the Jew in
Snatch.
Thank you. Or he's the Hispanic cop in Traffic. I mean, there's an accent always, and there's always that mumble. Like in Guardians, he definitely has a very odd way of speaking.
Yes. That's something that we didn't really touch on. Is that was another one of his kind of like he's either this like super quiet mumbler that doesn't say much, or he's a super frenetic, usual suspects collector. That kind of performance, and the fact that he could do both, because a lot of actors do one or the other very well, and I think just the two people that we've talked about on just this series, real actors, is kind of a fun dichotomy to look at, because you have a Jim Carrey who's on over in your face all the time. I'm Jim Carrey, and then you have a Ewan McGregor that's just like one of your buddies sitting in a room with you, experiencing it, and then you plop in a Benicio Del Toro, and he could do that, and then he could just sit there and smolder and just be so goddamn just entertaining. It's just, and that's why I wanted to do that. That's why I guess you guys threw it on me that I picked Benicio Del Toro, because I think that ensemble actors kind of get forgotten sometimes. But he is the consummate.
He's unforgettable.
He is the ensemble actor that if you could plug and play him into absolutely anything, and your IP, your film is better for it. So that is our show. We ran a little bit long. Thank you so much to the chat. What a fucking interactive chat. Thank you so much for joining us. And let's just go around the horn real quick. Debbie, Walking Deb, thank you so much for coming back on. It's been a while. We haven't seen you since Fear the Walking Dead Season 4 intro or premiere, and then the regular Walking Dead Season 7 finale. But it's great to have you back on the channel.
Great to be here. I mean, I had a moment where I had that back surgery, so I was kind of out of it for a while. But I'm here, and I'm here. Here I am.
She's here, and my partner in crime on these real actors for the past couple of times, Miss Rebecca Morgan, or Miss, I got it right. Thank you for coming back on, friend.
Oh, it was a pleasure, and I'm enjoying this. I love this, and let me know that this is the first time the three of us have done anything.
Which together. Is so awesome. It's the first time the three of us have done, the siblings have done an actual thing. I think it's great. I love this.
Yeah, I can't believe, like, the channel's almost 2 years old at this point, and like I said, I've had both of you on at different times, but just having you guys both on has been just a real treat, and I appreciate both of you coming on, spending your hard-earned time just to talk movies with me.
More of this. It's wonderful. I love it.
Yeah, and also, I actually had the chat up for the first time so I could see what people were saying this time.
Oh, good.
And I love that we had such an interactive chat. So that was pretty awesome too.
I don't know how to bring up the chat, so I didn't get to see the chat.
I'm watching it on my phone as I listen to you guys.
I do too. This is how the sausage is made.
That's how you do it.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. All right, I'm going to talk about my other special guest, the Belgian style, which you guys voted me drinking tonight. Silver City Brewery from Seattle area. Giant Made of Shadows. The Giant Made of Shadows, 9.9%. I'm feeling great. It was very tasty. I'm going to give this out of 5. I'm going to give it a nice 4.25 out of 5. Not a big Belgian style, but for I think the past 2 episodes, I had a Brother Thelonious and then this guy treating me very nicely. So I just love Silver City so much. But yeah, Deb, how was your special guest?
Well, it's gone.
Oh my god!
Yeah, but it was enjoyable. I enjoyed my Seagram's extra smooth vodka.
Oh my!
Oh my alcoholic siblings! I can't.
Yay!
No, normally I do drink the craft beer, but today I did have a Bud Light. I'm very embarrassed to say that I had a Bud Light.
Boo.
We'll never talk about that again. And
Debbie's never coming back on the channel now. No, but yeah, and it's just I mean, for whatever reason, this episode brought out like some OGs that I haven't talked to in a while, like Trav's Vitamin TX, Langalia, MTG Strategist. I just love you guys so much. Thank you for joining us, being an amazing active chat once again. So next week, this is the time where I like to talk about what's kind of coming up Next week, we have a 10th Street Hooligans. For all my Magic the Gathering people, Mr. Zuby, Mr. Coach, and Mr. Johnny Slivers is coming back. That's going to be Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So episode 5 of 10th Street Hooligans podcast is coming. And then Mr. Jason returns to the channel to talk more Director's Cut. That's going to be, I think, Tuesday night at 9. And we are talking about, I'm so excited to talk about Danny Boyle Films. Becki, you and I already kind of dug into that with all the train spotting.
With you and McGregor,
Yeah. So super stoked about that. And then the following week, we'll have real actors, and I'll probably have these schmucks joining me as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yay for schmucks.
And anyone want to tell everyone where they could find you?
You can't. I'm here in my bed. This is where you find me.
Okay. This just took a turn. Becki, where can everyone find you on the interwebs?
She's waiting for Benicio to come use his equipment.
No, you can't.
His instrument. Sorry, his instrument. You can find me on Instagram. I am painting stuff. The stuff that you see around me, I'm working on. It's either commissioned pieces that are getting shipped out, or they're in progress right now. At Rebecca Morgan Creative on Instagram. So at Rebecca Morgan Creative on Instagram is where you can find me. I do have a Rebecca Morgan makeup artist Facebook page. I am teaching kids 12 and up different special effects makeup workshops right now. And you can follow me on my Instagram to find out more about that.
Awesome. And I'm going to be really quick to this because I got to pee. You could find me right here on this very channel. They Said, We Said. You could also find me on Twitter at OrzovDunn. You can find me on Instagram, They Said, We Said. Or you can find me on Facebook at Jonathan Dunning because that is my name. So for Rebecca.
The Walking Bread voices. I did do that. I'm on the Walking Bread. I got voices there. That's where
Debbie's got voices.
It's the vodka. It's the vodka. A little delayed reaction there with the vodka.
I love it. Yeah, we are doing Walking Bread. Debbie and I have been lucky enough to be mainstays on the Walking Bread for Alex and Josh. It is so much fun, and another great experience to share with my sibling on. She's not wrong. But for the Walking Deb, for Rebecca Morgan, I'm John, and we will see you guys next time at the movies.